I want to start with a question that should keep every honest physician up at night. Why does the exact same procedure, the exact same injection, the same technique, the same dose, work beautifully for one patient and fail completely for another? If we were just machines with broken parts, that couldn't happen. Think about it. If you replace the belt on a car, the car runs every time. It doesn't matter if the car is happy or stressed or inflamed. You fix the part, the machine works. In the industrial medical model, we treat you like that car. We assume that if we apply the standard fix to the standard spot, we should get the standard result. It's a logic that works for iron and steel, but fails for flesh and blood. But human beings aren't cars. You are not a machine. You are a living, self-regulating biological ecosystem. And if that ecosystem is in chaos, there is no injection on Earth, no matter how perfectly dosed, that can force it to heal. I'm Dr. Gurpreet Padda. I've spent 30 years watching this mystery play out, and I'm going to tell you the answer that most of medicine refuses to say out loud. Most specialists are looking at the wrong map. We worship the structure, we worship the MRI. But a structural diagnosis in a metabolically broken body is often a distraction. We're looking at the damage while ignoring the fire that caused it. Let me tell you about someone. I'll call her Susan, and if you've been suffering, you may recognize yourself in her. Susan did everything right. She found the best clinics, got the injections, followed every rule, and it didn't work. By the third time, the doctor's voice changed. It became a shrug. Susan, your disease may just be too severe. There may not be much more we can do. She felt like she was the problem. She came to St. Louis carrying that sentence like a stone in her chest. She had been gaslit by a system that couldn't explain its own failures, so it blamed her biology for being too broken. When she sat with me, she asked the question that breaks my heart every time I hear it. Doctor, is it me? Am I just too broken to heal? She thought her body had forgotten how to repair itself. And I told her the truth. No, Susan, you are not the problem. You were never the problem. The injections didn't fail because you can't heal. They failed because we kept trying to build inside a body that was chemically at war with itself. I have to confess something. Early in my career, I was part of this problem. I was obsessed with structural damage. I'd point at the film and say, there is your problem. And I was wrong. Not because the damage wasn't real, it was, but because I was mistaking the casualty for the cause. That tear, that bad disc, it is often not the origin of the war. It is the wreckage left behind. I was treating the bomb crater and ignoring the bomber. It took a lot of humility to understand that the structure is often just the place where a systemic disease finally became visible. The real fight was happening everywhere else. That larger war has a name: Metainflammation. It's not the sharp, useful inflammation of a fresh cut that heals in a week. It's a low-grade, chronic, systemic smolder, a fire that never goes out in the background of your biology. It burns quietly in the background, year after year. It keeps your nervous system on high alert. It degrades your tissue, and critically, it consumes the resources your body would otherwise use to repair. If you are living in chronic pain, there is roughly a 93% probability that you have metabolic dysfunction driving that fire. 93%. That is not a coincidence. That is a pattern the system is trained not to see. The joint doctor doesn't look at metabolism, and the metabolic doctor doesn't look at joints. You fall straight through the crack between them. But the fire doesn't respect our specialties. It burns across all of them at once. Your body has two fundamental settings: survival mode and repair mode. And it cannot run both at full power at the same time. This is the mechanism that changes everything in regenerative medicine. When you have insulin resistance, when your cells are flooded with more energy than they can safely process, your mitochondria become overwhelmed. They start drowning in reactive oxygen species, chemical chaos. When a body is in that state, it makes a brutal, ancient decision: survival first. It diverts everything toward just keeping the lights on and managing the toxicity. Repair becomes a luxury it cannot afford. So picture what happens when we inject growth factors into a body stuck in survival mode. Your biology looks at them and says, I would love to build new tissue, but I am too busy fighting a fire. I don't have the resources. This is the single most important image I can give you. When a clinic injects growth factors into a metabolically inflamed body, they are trying to build a beautiful new house on a foundation that is sinking and on fire. You can bring the finest lumber in the world to that site. It doesn't matter. The ground won't hold it and the flames consume it before a single wall goes up. That is why Susan's injections failed. Not because the lumber was bad. Even if the injectate had been perfectly dosed, it was delivered to a construction site that was actively burning. The growth factors were neutralized in a chemical firestorm before they ever had the chance to initiate the healing cascade. This is the part almost no one explains to patients. You cannot successfully build repair on a hostile foundation. First, you put out the fire. First, you stabilize the ground. Then, and only then, the building can begin. Now, some of you have been handed the oldest, laziest prescription in medicine for this exact problem. Just eat less and move more. I want to be very direct about that phrase because it has done enormous damage. It is not medical advice. It is a moral judgment dressed up as science. It is a system quietly telling you that your illness is a character flaw, that if you're metabolically broken, you must simply be weak or lazy or undisciplined, and that is a lie. Your metabolic dysfunction is not a willpower failure. It is a biochemical reality, driven by a food supply engineered to keep you on a hedonic treadmill, hyperpalatable, and dopamine hijacking by design. When Susan sat across from me, she was braced for that judgment. And I told her, I am not going to look at you with judgment. I am going to look at you with data. Your biology is not a confession. It's information. So what do we actually do instead? We audit. I approach the human body the way a forensic investigator approaches a case. At regen.md, we don't just look at your joint. We look at the entire operating system underneath it. We examine your insulin signaling, how your cells are actually handling energy. Are they accepting fuel or are they under siege, rejecting the energy and fueling the fire of metainflammation instead? We assess your mitochondrial function, whether your cellular power plants are producing clean energy for repair or producing chemical chaos that triggers pain signals. We measure the efficiency of your life force. We look at your gut microbiome because the lining of your intestine may be quietly feeding the fire in your knee or your back. If the gut-brain pain axis is broken, the joint will never heal. The assembly line doesn't have time to see you as a system. It sees you as a joint, a code, and an exit. We refuse that. We read the whole map because the whole map is the only thing that tells the truth about why you hurt. The assembly line doesn't have time to see you as a system. It sees you as a joint, a code, and an exit. We refuse that. We read the whole map because the whole map is the only thing that tells the truth about why you hurt. Out of that audit comes the concept that quietly changes everything: metabolic readiness. Before we invest your hope and your money in a high-value regenerative procedure, we ask, is your body even ready to use it? When we begin restoring the terrain, quieting this metainflammation, restoring insulin sensitivity, giving the mitochondria room to breathe, something remarkable often happens before we've injected anything at all. The pain begins to quiet down on its own, because a huge portion of chronic pain isn't the structure screaming, it's the terrain screaming. When the ecosystem is stabilized, the alarm system of the body can finally de-escalate. And when we do proceed with a procedure into a body that's finally ready, the same injection that failed elsewhere works with dramatically higher efficacy. Same tools, different terrain, completely different result. So we did that for Susan. We didn't start with her joint. We started with her fire. We spent time treating the metabolic chaos that 3 previous clinics had never even measured. And weeks in, something changed. She was sleeping. The constant grinding background ache had softened. She had, in her words, gotten a piece of herself back. For the first time in years, she was being treated as a whole human ecosystem. I'm not going to promise you Susan's exact outcome because I don't sell guarantees. What I'll promise is the approach. We will not blame you, we will not rush you, and we will not build on a foundation that isn't ready. We will do the harder, more honest thing. We will fix the foundation first. That is what it looks like when a physician finally treats the source instead of scolding the symptom. That is how you reclaim your sovereignty. So if you are a pain refugee, if you have been dismissed, gaslit, or told that your suffering is all in your head, I need you to hear this clearly. We don't think it's in your head. We know it's in your biochemistry. And we know how to find it because we go looking with the right tools instead of the right excuses. Your body is not broken beyond repair. It may simply be a foundation that no one has ever put out the fire beneath. That is fixable. We are at regen.md in St. Louis, right next to the airport, because our patients fly in from all over the country. People who are finished with the assembly line and ready for real, data-driven restoration. Stop treating the signal, start treating the source. Come sit down with us, let us audit the system nobody else looked at, and let's return your metabolic sovereignty, the power to run your own biology again. Your ecosystem can heal. Let's give it a reason to. I'm Dr. Gurpreet Padda. Fix the terrain, reclaim your future, regen.md.